All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford, and a chance that Errol Spence Jr.'s actual end goal for his career might come sooner than later, depending on what Terence Crawford does. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Before I get into the subject matter of the video, let me wish you happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever it is that you celebrate during this holiday season. I hope that you, your family, your loved ones all have a absolutely wonderful and blessed time. Also, if you would not mind, make sure to support my the sponsor for this video and our betting partner, busr.ag. /Fanon. If you go there and you enter the promotional code Fanon, when you deposit money when you bet on boxing, basketball, or whatever it is, you're going to get special benefits and special credits there. So definitely a good way to get get extra value if you use my promotional code over there. So please accept my invitation to do so. All right, man, let's get to it. Had a conversation with people that are close, not in the Errol Spence Jr. camp, I've had people on the Errol Spence Jr. camp that have been on my channel before. I want to be very, very clear that it is not them that I'm getting this from. It is somebody from a completely different angle. However, I definitely thought that this information was worth sharing with you. Just to keep in your mind, may pan out this way, may not pan out this way. And actually, I hope that it does not pan out this way. And that is that, Errol Spence Jr., because he has mega fights that he is looking for the rest of his career. He's not, and he has said this himself out in public records. You can check this. He's saying, look, man, he's not looking for tune-up fights. He's looking to go straight into championship fights. The one he's got right now is Yordenis Ugas. And then after that, he's on record saying that he's trying to clean up the 147-pound division. And that would mean that he wants to get a fight with Terence Crawford and become the undisputed champion at 147 pounds. There are, however, issues around, from my understanding, within the PBC, and this is something that people from the Terence Crawford side of it say, right? That there may be people over there that are not as anxious for him to fight Terence Crawford, and actually they have bigger plans for Errol Spence Jr. in his career. And seeing as he's just had a car accident, he's had a retina injury, that that there's feelings that they might want to speed that up, and that is the ultimate end goal. My understanding is, and this has been said by people in Errol Spence Jr.'s camp before, but it is something that is not, really not talked about a lot, is that the ultimate fight for Errol Spence Jr. is a pay-per-view showdown with Canelo Alvarez. Now, the reason why that is such an attractive fight is for several reasons. Errol Spence Jr. has been on record as saying that he believes that he can fight Canelo Alvarez, and that really Canelo Alvarez, if you look at the frame on Canelo Alvarez, that his frame is not that much bigger than Errol Spence Jr.'s is. That when he looks at Canelo, he's looking at Canelo eye to eye. That Canelo is a little bit, is more stocky than he is, but he believes that he is somebody that is not too big for him to fight. Also, if you've listened to, and this is not Derek James talking about Canelo, this is just Derek James talking about, not talking about Canelo as it relates to Errol Spence Jr., but talking about Canelo as it relates to, other fighters, that, when Canelo Alvarez moved up in weight, that the big advantage that Canelo Alvarez has over other fighters is that Canelo Alvarez has a speed advantage over bigger fighters. And when you fight, and that would be the case with all smaller fighters that move up in weight. For example, when Manny Pacquiao was giving advice to Mikey Garcia, or was asked, what can Mikey Garcia do to beat Errol Spence Jr.? He said, well, you're the smaller guy. You're going to have to use speed to your advantage, because it's the smaller guy's speed that is the advantage over the bigger guy, right? So you see Canelo Alvarez moving up in weight class, and what his big advantage is his hand speed. And the fact that he is a naturally smaller guy, shorter arms, punches get there quicker than the taller, longer guys, the taller guys that have longer arms, right? So the same logic goes forward with Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo. And also, not just that aspect of it, if you look at who Canelo Alvarez actually has to fight in the big mega fights that Canelo Alvarez would have down the line, there aren't any real big fights for Canelo Alvarez outside of Errol Spence Jr. And by that I mean, now there are big fights for Canelo Alvarez because when Canelo Alvarez is in a fight, it's a big fight, right? But, for example, he fights Caleb Plant. He does, they said 800,000, 600, 800,000, whatever it is, but obviously does very good numbers with Caleb Plant. That's a big, big fight. If he fights David Benavidez, it's going to be a big fight, right? Because every fight with Canelo Alvarez is going to be a big fight. However, if you look at Canelo Alvarez's numbers, Canelo Alvarez is not having a fight that is as big as a Floyd Mayweather Jr. Manny Pacquiao fight. It's not as big as a fight where you would get like, an Oscar De La Hoya, Felix Tito Trinidad fight, right? There is, and in fact, two fights that he's had that have been like that have been a Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight and the Gennady Golovkin fights. But neither Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. or Gennady Golovkin really had a history of doing big pay-per-views or really had a tremendously big fan base in the United States. Whereas somebody like Errol Spence, who is right now in the United States, other than Canelo Alvarez, is selling the most pay-per-views and probably has the biggest fan base of any fighter not named Canelo Alvarez that's fighting in the United States, right? So those two coming together in a fight class, at a weight somewhere around 160 pounds, 160, maybe 164 pound catch weight is something that would do what Floyd Mayweather Jr. has done to really create do big events before, which is to have a Mexican fighter and an African-American fighter with a big name come together and fight. So and this, honestly, I don't really need people, certain people to tell me that or, to convince me of that, because it's something you can just see where the tea leaves are coming together. However, what Errol Spence wants to do is he wants to first, and he's clearly on record saying this, is he wants to clear up 147, he wants to clean up 147 pounds. He wants the, Terence Crawford fight. However, if for some reason Terence Crawford is not able to do that, they're not beyond just skipping to the next phase and actively looking for the Canelo Alvarez fight outside of the 160 pound, outside of the 140 pound division. So I think that it is incumbent it's incumbent on Terence Crawford for Terence Crawford to make that fight and to be financially reasonable to do that. Now, I have done a video before, and I'll say it again, that I do believe that fight is going to happen because, Al Heyman is the type of guy, and this is my understanding from people that have dealt with him before, is that there is so much value in that Terence Crawford fight that they will be able to work something out where Terence Crawford feels like he's been adequately rewarded. However, that the actual big money goal for Errol Spence Jr. is not for him to stay at 147 pounds forever, but to actually get that Canelo Alvarez fight and make a mega fight, which they believe, if everything leads up to it, could be one of the biggest fights in boxing history. And that is, something that they're not going to shortcut the opportunity to make happen. Canelo Alvarez, for his part, has said that he'd be open to fight Errol Spence Jr. and eventually, more than likely, he's going to be able to and willing to do that to make that type of mega fight. I don't know if they're going to risk themselves when they have an opportunity, and that's Canelo's side, risk themselves against the Benavidez's and these guys when they can see that big cash money prize right in front of them in a fight that they're going to be, number one, that they're going to be favored to win. This Canelo Alvarez is going to be favored to win Errol Spence Jr., and they may actually figure that because they're coming down in weight, maybe actually be a cherry pick against a guy like Errol Spence, a guy like Errol Spence Jr. But anyway, that's what I heard. My take on the matter is that I certainly hope that the Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford fight is made and then they move on to that. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.